Yeah, hipper than a hippopotamus. It is the Sixers Talk podcast, live and in full effect. Danny Pommells here, and we got the heavy hitters as Noah Levitt hard. Amy Fadool and Marc Jackson. Of course, Amy from Sixers Pre and Post Game Live. Marc Jackson from Pre and Post Game Live, Temple University, Sixers, and all the various teams he's played for. Amy does more shows than a little bit here on the network, so you're familiar with who these people are. But man, oh man, it's funny. Marc Jackson came in to sit down, Amy, and of course, Buddy Hield is coming to Philly. Several guys have left, but he came in and said, "This is crazy." Once he heard the Jaden Springer news just dropped, because he was a valuable guy, and we will get to that. And he's shown a lot of prowess on the defensive end. But let's talk about this Buddy Hield trade. And before you guys chime in, I want to give the particulars because there are other trades to get to as well. As Pat Bev is gone, but the Sixers got Buddy Hield from the Pacers in exchange for Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz. Goodbye to the process for him. Toronto's second-round pick they sent there from 2024, a Portland second-rounder from 2029, a Clippers second-rounder for 2029, and $1.5 million in cash to make this all work. So let's digest that before we get to Pat Bev, before we get to Danuel House, who also is gone, and Jaden Springer, as all these expiring contracts are leaving the Sixers roster. And it's interesting because so much, consternation and, worry was there, thinking, what would the Sixers do? Is Joel Embiid healthy enough to come back? Will they kind of use this year of his prime and try to continue to make a push for the postseason? Will they pull back and kind of maneuver themselves to be ready for the offseason? But I feel like, and you guys can chime in and say how you feel, that these moves indicate that they are expecting Joel Embiid to come back at some point this year, whether that be for the postseason, the very tail end of the regular season. But Marc, I see you nodding your head. We'll start with you. What do you feel like this indicates? Do you agree, disagree?
Jaden Springer? Really? Can we just start with that? Talk Jaden Springer here. We give a Jaden Springer, Pat, but we give out two pretty much best defenders.
Right.
I mean, what's going on here? What's the peanut butter and jelly right there? I mean, but
Payne is coming back.
Yeah, I mean, Payne is a pretty good, solid player. He's a vet. Okay, if he can produce, he's pretty good. Double-figure scorer last year. Yeah, we get something with him. We get something with Buddy Hield. Yeah. We still go with Jaden Springer.
You get your backup ball handler, where Jaden wasn't really in that role.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I'm just being zealous here, people. But when we get back, we got Buddy Hield. We got a scorer. Last 5 years in the league, has more made threes than anyone in the NBA.
38% from three this season.
38%, career 40%. So he's a legit shooter. And we get Payne. Payne's a very good point guard. He's had a couple of great years the last couple of years. So we did solidify our roster. With that being said, I still feel as though it's something more. My taste buds was wanting something bigger because it felt like something big was going to happen. But with that being said, Buddy Hield's a very good player. Payne is a very good player. So let's see what happens.
Amy, the Sixers only shoot 31 3-point attempts a game. That's like near the very bottom of the NBA. Yeah. So Hield definitely addresses a need.
Yeah, I mean, he when he joins the Sixers, he'll be the second guy as far as right behind Maxey. He shoots about 7 a game. You mentioned career 40%. He's used a lot less with the Pacers. It's a different style. I think he just didn't fit in as well. We know what he can be. When you're looking at last year, he was ranked second in the entire NBA in 3-pointers made. So he is a guy that is a volume shooter. One thing we've seen when the games, they're 4-12 without Joel Embiid, especially these last couple of games, they've had trouble scoring. Yes. I think some of the final scores aren't indicative of how the game actually went. You'll see them get to 110, 112, but a lot of that is time where the opponent hasn't really had their A team out there, and you've got guys out there just kind of shooting it up, which is not a knock to them, but really the Sixers had trouble breaking the 100-point mark without Joel Embiid, and rightfully so. I mean, he's 36 points, and that's missing from the lineup. It's a lot to ask to have a couple of guys come off the bench and try to fill that. So he does fill that. Marc, you mentioned there's other moves to be made now. There's roster spots that are out there.
Right.
Sixers traded away a lot of guys, and they only picked up a couple. You're looking at probably 3 roster spots right now that they need to fill. So the buyout market's up. They traded away 3 second-rounders. They did get 2 second-rounders back for that. So you got to be building up for something. I'm looking forward to hearing from Daryl Morey tomorrow, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, Buddy Hield solves a need. But I'm with you, Danny. It clearly shows to a lot of people observing that they expect Joel Embiid to be back before the playoffs, certainly by the end of the season. You expect him to be back. They're trying to, kind of keep everything afloat, be in that top 6, avoid the play-in, make the playoffs, get healthy, and now they've got a bona fide scorer. And I know that his numbers aren't as good this year, but I attribute that a lot to his playing time being down and the fact that he just doesn't have the same role that he's had in years past with the Pacers this year.
Yeah, and go ahead, Marc. Yeah,
I mean, does it really say
Joel's coming back?
Joel's coming back.
Well, let's say what we know.
Yeah,
4 weeks he'll be reevaluated. He had the meniscus surgery.
Yes.
So the expectation, glass half full, is that in those 4 weeks,
good point.
we'll be moving in the right direction. But you feel like not enough has been done, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm just not comfortable. I know you said we've made moves to acquire guys via buyout market, but like, how good is the player if they're in buyout market?
Yeah, the buyout market is interesting. I mean,
do we need Kyle Lowry with this guy Cameron Payne?
Kyle Lowry's a name that's been mentioned. Spencer Dinwiddie's a guy that's going to get, waived by the Raptors, I saw. So there's a couple of names that are interesting out there as far as the buyout market. You don't know the buyout market until you know the buyout market, so to speak. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, I just think that they're making moves. What I mean to say is I think they feel optimistic about Embiid is that they didn't make this giant move thinking that, wow, we really can't survive and we're trying to go all in. Buddy Hield on an expiring contract. It's a natural move for a team that's looking to add some pieces to try to right the ship and kind of, get to a point where they can wait for the reinforcements. That's what a move like this means to me when you pick up a guy that's on an expiring contract. There's a lot of moves that didn't get made today that are very surprising. DeMar DeRozan, Andre Drummond, the Bulls, it's unusual for a team that's mired in that play-in tournament kind of seeding to not make a move with guys that are clearly have a good market out there and that are on expiring contracts. And we were talking about in the newsroom, Marc, I know you were out there for it. It was like when the Raptors held on to Fred VanVleet. Why? He's not coming back. You're not going anywhere with him. He's not returning there. Get something for him while you can. He's on an expiring contract. So it's confusing to me that they would, the Bulls would keep some of the players they did, but maybe the offers were too high and no teams bid on it. I'm not really sure on that. It'll be interesting to see what the buyout market does turn up, though. I don't know that there's, this giant white whale that's going to come in and be like, "Whoa, look at this. It's a big, shiny new product." But there could be some more helpful things. It's just there was some moves, but there was no big moves like we saw maybe last year or years past.
I think one of the most interesting things about the moves that have been made is the Sixers are obviously sinking in the standings. They're currently sitting in 5th, 20 losses, hovering 2 spots above the play-in tournament. But you're making deals with teams that are surrounding you in the standings. So you're making a deal with the Pacers, who have caused the Sixers trouble with their pace. Right, they're right behind the Sixers. So they're trying to improve, and you're playing ball with them, a very tenuous type of situation with Daryl Morey, dealing with the Pacers. And I can see Furkan Korkmaz having a good showing in that fast-paced type of style that the Pacers play. But on top of that, you'd make a deal with Doc Rivers and the Bucks and send Pat Bev there. So hopefully,
let's talk about Pat Bev, because the internet is on fire right now.
Right.
I mean, according to his part, people are going to burn down the city. I'm just saying,
people are very upset about that one.
But look Pat Bev, he's the type of guy they love. He is the blue collar, leave it all out on the floor type of guy that they love around here. I mean, you got to do like Marcus Morris, who's from here. People aren't even saying anything about, and they got Pat Bev.
People are in my mentions, you'll never buy a drink in this town again. We love you. I mean, the man was here for a couple of months, but that's the kind of impact that a player like him can have. To me, there's a lot of, I think it seems like there's probably a lot of fire where the smoke is when it concerns Kyle Lowry, because it's a very similar style of player. Obviously, Lowry is longer in the tooth when it comes to the NBA. He's 37 years old.
Playoff tested, though. I think that
he'll be 38 in March. But the one thing that he's going to play hard. Whatever he's got, he's going to put it all out there. He's playoff proven. He's that, that bulldog mentality. He's a Philly guy too. So he kind of gives you both kind of, edges that the Sixers might need. We talked about this last night on the post-game show. the vibes are not real good right now with the Sixers, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. We all know that they're banged up. The guys are dealing with illness. They're in and out of the lineups. Joel Embiid is out. So it's a tough time right now, and they're in these games until they're not, and then then the wheels really come off. Is a guy like a Kyle Lowry going to be able to help some of that? Probably. A proven winner will always help a team that's kind of trying to find their middle. It's a little bit listing side to side, and they need to kind of, right the ship, so to speak. So a player like that could really help. It'll be interesting to see what happens on the buyout market with him. His name's been linked. It's, a guy like Kyle Lowry is going to be linked to the Sixers for the style of play, who he is, and where he comes from. It's a natural fit. His name has always kind of been one of those things, that's mentioned with when the Sixers are talking about either trading for players or now obviously in the buyout market. So it'll be interesting. He could fill that type of role that the Pat Bev type of player filled. But yeah, people don't burn down the city. Pat Bev is going to be fine. Pat Bev, I know he went on his podcast and said Daryl Morey said he was not going to trade him. That Pat Bev then went immediately on Twitter. Was like, I love Philadelphia. Daryl Morey took a chance on me 10 years ago with nothing but love for Daryl Morey. Pat Bev knows it's a business, and you can say all you want. No one is untradeable. No one is untradeable.
That's what I was going to say.
No one's untradeable. You might come to the player first, but no one's untradeable.
Exactly. Are you going to trade me? You're a professional basketball player, right?
Yeah,
and that's part of the job. Like I don't necessarily vibe with that. Like, every team I play for and most teams, it's part of the business. Like, I'm not going to say, are you going to trade me? No, you're going to trade me, I'll find out like everybody do on the internet. I know I'm not working in the front office, because the front office is the last people to tell you got traded. So it's unfortunate. But Pat Bev is a bulldog. You said it, Amy. He's the fan favorite here because of how he played, the style of play. We love the blue-collar workers. We love it to leave all out on the line. We love those kind of players. And that's a Pat Bev, is. He's to the T. That's what he is. But with that being said, he's actually going to a good situation as well.
Yeah.
So, and then we changed Springer to Boston. Like, we helping the two top teams in the East. That's why I'm a little confused. I'm sorry.
No, I think that's a great point. And you actually started talking about really my next question. And Amy, you mentioned Pat Bev's tweet, and I want to just say exactly what he tweeted. He goes, okay. He does the chili emoji saying cold game, Philly love gang. So, yes, okay, Marc, it is part of the business. Yes, this is the trade deadline day, but like Amy said, Pat Bev didn't expect this to happen. Shed some more light on what the feelings are as a player coming into this day. You've been traded before. What is it like coming into this day and then actually finding out? And I've heard other players talk about, specifically, I heard Steven Jackson talk and Rasheed Wallace talking about that time that they played together with the Atlanta Hawks. They were out having a meal at a bar or something like that, and they saw that Rasheed had been traded on the bottom line of the show that they were watching. And then shortly thereafter, Rasheed got a call from his agent. So, you're finding these things out inadvertently in ways that you wouldn't expect. It is a cold game. So can you speak to that a little bit and what the feelings are and how you deal with that? Well,
the most stressful time in an NBA player's life during his season is the trading deadline. It's very uncomfortable and very unsettling, because I know people say, you make a lot of money per game. Yes, but we're human. As a professional basketball player, you're human. You have family, you have friends, you've networked in a certain community.
In school,
you have kids in school like that. These are all things play a factor, and it affects anyone that is human. Only people that doesn't affect the people don't think just because you got money, shut up and play. It doesn't work that way. And I hate to say this, but it's unfortunate in this business. The last people you hear from is the people that traded you away, which this baffles me. Like, when I got traded from Sixers to the Nets, I talked to Lawrence Frank, who's the coach and the general manager there, before I even talked to Billy King. I think I talked to Billy King when I was on my way to Jersey. Yeah, Marc, we had to trade. I said, that's fine and thing. It's part of the game, but you couldn't tell me before, or tell me as it happened. Why I got to try out for the media from other people? That's the other thing. It's very unsettling, and it affects the players, but it affects their families as well. And most of these guys have families that's here in Philadelphia with them. So now being traded, and Marcus Morris, listen, he just rented a place. His family's here. Now he's being traded away. his wife and his kids just got settled.
He got the key to the city, Marc.
Exactly.
He got the. What are you doing? Do you have to give it back? You have to give
No,
it back?
he and his brother both got that key, so they get to keep it. They're from Philly. They're Philly through and through. Don't you take that key away from them,
I
Daniel.
know, right? You got to frame that and stick it somewhere. But
Exactly.
like, luckily, it happened before February 8th, because if they had waited, like, it would have been bringing them back from the Pacers to give them the key to the city. But yeah, cold game, man, cold game, and it is a business, like we always say, and as we know. And I'm interested to delve a little deeper into the Jaden Springer thing, because okay, it seems like by my calculations they shipped away 4 second-round picks and are getting back 2. So if that's the case, a guy like Jaden Springer, they only have now 2 guys under contract for next season, Paul Reed and Joel Embiid. Would have been Jaden Springer as well, but he's gone. So the Celtics get the team friendliness that his contract provides, and the Sixers get back a second-round pick. So is that as valuable as Jaden Springer and what we've seen from him and the progression? And say what you want about Doc Rivers, he was so right about this kid and how impactful his defense can be. And we've been seeing it the past couple games. We saw him get up in Luka Doncic's shorts. We saw him guarding Steph Curry 94 feet. And then they trade him the next day. Are you guys still confused by this? What have you been able to process any of it at all?
That's what I was saying. Like these trades to me don't scream it's win now. It's saying we're going to stay where we have to, and maybe this summer we'll create something bigger with our salary cap. That's what that says to me. Like, this Springer has shown value, and he's on a team-friendly deal. And he's still young enough that you can say, okay, we're going to work you when we can this year, and then maybe you can get a bigger role next year. Like, the kid is an elite defender, and he's shown the ability to find a way to score the ball. Other than I've people been mentioning, coming to me in my DMs, like saying, well, what about, it's like Matisse Thybulle. Matisse was a one-way player. No. The difference between Matisse Thybulle and Springer shows a way to, and a willingness to want to score the ball. He's been effective. Whether it's not necessarily shooting 3, but it's driving to the hole, getting stuff around the paint. Matisse Thybulle wasn't necessarily doing that. He was just pretty much a defender, and that was it. And that's a great defender. But Springer shows signs of being a very good defender, as well as finding a way to score the ball, a little bit more mobile to me. So that's why that one scratched my head. You seen it, Danny. I came in here like, something don't sound right to me.
Confused.
I was confused. Like, all right, Pep,
actually distraught. You were
I was very distraught about that.
Marc was the first person I had to yell out to, and I was like, Marc,
exactly. Like, I don't get that. Like, that bothers me. That bothers me as an analyst, as well as a guy who understands the city of Philadelphia and what we're trying to do, or at least I thought we were trying to do. So it has a lot of questions. And like you said, we have roster spots to fill. We have to fill them.
Yeah.
We have to fill them. So the buyout market hopefully is in our favor.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking, Danuel House is gone. You actually go on the Sixers website right now, and all the players are already off it. So I tried to like figure out who was still on it. But I mean, so I was like, oh wait, no, that guy's not here, whatever. And obviously the 2-way players, but you're missing several players right now, and you have to pick them up. Jaden Springer, to me, I will differ with Marc in a little bit. I do think that these moves are building. They seem like they're building up to something, whether it's something in the offseason or something that's coming, because I just don't know why you would keep acquiring assets like second-round picks, which I think GMs value quite a bit as far as coupling them together with other players. We've seen that a lot today. Player and a pick, player and a pick, player and a pick. They obviously coveted their first-round picks quite a bit. It's not that long ago they didn't have any of those because they would trade them away. So that was good to see that they didn't kind of estimate or overvalue anybody, because I think that there's players out there that probably would have garnered a first-round pick. It depends on the contract. I would never give up a first-round pick on an expiring contract unless you're literally just right there. Like, that's just to me, it's like that's a really dangerous move, because that means so much for your team going forward. Jaden Springer, I think, has a good ceiling. I don't know if his ceiling is super, super high, but I think it's higher than what a Matisse Thybulle is. And I've heard that, Marc, you and I have like talked about that comparison a lot, because he's such a good defender, a potential, all NBA, maybe second team defender type of player, but offensively, he just doesn't give you much. But is it because he hasn't gotten a chance? Who knows? We haven't seen yet. So it's interesting to me that he was traded to the Celtics. They obviously saw some value in there. I think that makes everybody a little bit nervous around here because he's going in conference, and it's the Celtics, and I'm like, oh, really? Because they don't usually miss a lot on picks and things like that and evaluations. So it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do for them. I mean, he's a guy that showed potential. I don't know that he would ever get to be, a traditional 3-and-D type of player, which is what I think the Sixers have long coveted. I think a lot of NBA teams covet the 3-and-D type of player. I don't know that Springer's that guy, but I think he could have been a valuable bench player. But it's not to say that there's not a player out there that could do that. The defensive front that the Sixers are rolling with right now, that needs some help. I hope the buyout market has some defense, because right now they lost a really good defender. Pat Bev, obviously a very good defender as well, and now Jaden Springer. And they haven't really replaced that yet. So that to me is a little bit, they've been able to stop teams, and that got a lot harder right now with the roster as it's constructed right this minute.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Dan. Let me touch on something you said I think is very important. You said, I think we need scoring, right? Buddy Hield's a scorer, but like that guy DeRozan was out there.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing
I think that's a first round pick.
I'm like, but he's a rental because he's a free agent, and he's up. I think he's the one this summer is going to the Lakers. He's going back home.
Yeah.
So I'm happy we didn't give up a first round pick for guys we're going to have for 40 games or in not including playoffs. And he would have gave us a lot. And he would have absolutely kept us afloat. But we absolutely, I believe, from my heart, we would not have been able to sign him this summer. I think he'd be in a Lakers uniform next year.
I agree. I think the asking price for him was probably a first round pick. And I think teams were like, no. Like if you were right there and you were thinking, oh, we just need like one more guy, the Sixers aren't right there because they don't, obviously we don't know what's going on with Joel Embiid. So that would have been a really high price if that's what it was. I'll be very curious to find out what the asking price was for DeMar DeRozan. Andre Drummond is a guy I know that we've all talked about. It'll be interesting to see what happens to him. A backup 5 is always welcome here in Philadelphia, especially Andre Drummond.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because some of the needs for this team were another ball handler, some 3-point shooting, a backup big. Has Mo Bamba's role made that feel less of a need? Or
No,
obviously they addressed the shooting. They got the backup ball handler, maybe in campaign, possibly Kyle Lowry. So are you feeling like they're just going to ignore that part of the need list?
I mean, I don't think that you can ignore it. It's that is the giant elephant in the room. I mean, you're reigning MVP, your 36-point scorer leading the NBA. He's not here, and no amount of players are going to fill that void unless all of a sudden Luka Doncic comes here and he brings his 35 points a game. That's literally it. But yeah, so I mean, I was curious. Again, maybe the price was not something they were comfortable with for Andre Drummond, but I know that was a long speculated move given the fact that we know that he has fit well in this system. He has backed up Joel Embiid before. Marc, you said it, I thought, really well the other night. Like, he's probably one of the best, if not the best, backup to Embiid as far as not a giant, misstep drop off defensively. He's a good rim protector. We know he can rebound. Sixers have had trouble rebounding this year, certainly in Joel Embiid's absence as well. So I was surprised that they didn't make a move. It doesn't mean that, there can't be something, I guess, out there still. I don't know what the buyout market looks like as far as centers go. But no, I mean, I don't know that they address that in a way that makes me feel really comfortable. But also, again, maybe Joel Embiid's going to be back in 6 to 8 weeks, and we're thinking, all right, well, he comes back right before the playoffs and, call it a day. But no, I mean, Mo Bamba has a nice role. Paul Reed has a nice role, but to me, they're not at that level of being a reliable, well-trusted, hey, I'm ready for the playoffs. This is who I'm rolling with as the backup to Joel Embiid. That would make me a little nervous.
I agree with you on that, Amy. I agree with you full force on that. And Paul Reed, him showing glimpses of hope and promise. And, when Mo Bamba's in there, when he's able to play and come through, he shows promise. When you look at Mo Bamba, it's unfortunate. I think, a couple of times this year, Nick Nurse is looking to give him more of a role, and he'll play him, and he played really well one game. The next day he's hurt.
Yeah.
And he sits out of the lineup for another 3-4 games. We play him again. He shows promise. The next day he's hurt.
Yeah.
I think, with that being said, that's telling me that,
conditioning.
When you don't play a lot consistently, that rhythm does bother your conditioning, your legs, but with that, tell me, like, that's something to me, like you said, Amy, like, I was like, man, they probably gonna look for another 5 just in case,
Yeah.
and it's like, and let's bring up I know we joking about the key to the city, but Marcus Morris actually playing pretty good. He's playing pretty good. So we gave him up as well. We still have Covington. We still have Batum, Kenyon Martin Jr.
Two banged up guys.
Guys been in and out the lineup, but Marcus Morrison, who's a little banged up in his own right with his plantar fasciitis, he's playing pretty good too. So like, I don't know how I feel about these things.
Well, let's talk about it. The nucleus that we have here. I, for one, felt like there was a few guys, granted, a ton of expiring contracts still in the Sixers roster, but I felt like there were a few guys, like if you're really going to make a push and you're keeping, you got to keep this nucleus of Maxey, Melton, Harris, Oubre has kind of made his way into there, although he's been looking a lot more one-dimensional just on the offensive end and not as much as a defensive help for the team. But I think that was important for them. So I feel like they kind of shaved off a lot of the periphery. And somehow I'm still trying to make sense of the Springer thing, but Pat Bev and Springer got kind of caught up in that as they tried to make this next move. So, but I do like Hield and Maxey in the backcourt. I do like Tobias, and then
defensively though, that's tough. That's a tough.
But that's you lose so much without Embiid there as like that last line of defense. You know what I'm saying? And making up for all those mistakes. So everybody's idiosyncrasies are magnified now. So how good you are one-on-one, how good you are on the perimeter playing defense, how good you are help defense, and all those things all get magnified. So where are we? What's your ideal starting lineup at this point? If Melton's healthy, Oubre,
great question.
Are you putting Harris at the 4?
If Melton's healthy, this guy's missed what, 15 of the last 16
games? He had a backiotomy.
Doctors say he needs a backiotomy. And that's a Dave Chappelle movie quote for those of you who don't know. It's not an actual medical term. We do not put doctors on television. That's not a real thing. It does not need any kind of medical procedure. Do not add us for that one. Yeah, that's a great question because he's such a good player for this team, DeAnthony Melton, and we've seen him.
And I would imagine they're going to keep him. I imagine they're going to re-sign him.
Yeah, he fills a good spot for them. And it's been tough to see him on the bench and sideline because it seemed like when the back injury initially was reported that it seemed like a hopeful, like, we're just going to kind of rest him and ice him. And the team was doing so well. And they'd won 6 or 7.
Back for a little bit.
Good time. Yeah. And then it was like, he missed 3 games and then he came back and now he's missed 12 straight games. I mean, that is a really long stretch. We're talking about a month of the season. So it worries me for him. Obviously, a back injury, Marc, that's nothing you ever want to mess with, ever. It's just, it's a hurt back. So your question is a valid one, Danny. Like, who is the starting lineup right now? Who is healthy? Like, what are we doing right now? Who do we got? Mark Jackson is playing solid minutes. The other night, they didn't have a 4, and they moved Kelly Oubre to the 4 and had Springer. That was last night. Had Springer to start. I mean, that is an interesting lineup when you've got Paul Reed at the 5, Kelly Oubre and Tobias Harris are your forwards, and then you had Springer and Maxey. That's a tough lineup for points and for defense for different reasons in different spots. And that's not a knock on any of those players, but it's just that's where the Sixers are at right now. So I don't know what this lineup looks like because I have no idea if DeAnthony Melton, how healthy he's going to be. Robert Covington's missed over a month of the season at this point. I know people are
great for him.
People are saying like, why didn't they trade him? I mean, if a player's not healthy, that's a tough trade. That's a tough trade. He hasn't been able to get on the court. Like, that's a tough go. I get it. You would rather him traded than Marcus Morris type, but people want people that can play. And right now, Robert Covington hasn't been able to play. So I don't know, Marc, what's your lineup if you have these guys? Batum, obviously, but I mean, right now, I guess Reed we're going with. Maxey.
Yeah, you got to go big Paul Reed. I'm sorry, I mean cut you off.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I was just saying Paul Reed, Tobias, Batum. I guess you got to go with Buddy Hield and Maxey. Yeah. When you look at the roster overall, let's play devil's advocate. Everybody's healthy. Everybody's in a lineup, right? So you got Maxey, Buddy Hield, Batum, Tobias, and let's say when Joel come out, you got Joel. They come off the bench. You got Melton and Oubre. That's and Payne. That's not a bad 8. That's not a bad 8 at all. But with that being said, Joel's not back right now. Can we stop the skid with the roster we have? Can we stop the skid with the we have enough scoring Do we have enough score? Buddy Hield is not just a shooter; he is a scorer. Does he get enough scoring? I don't know, because now we lost. Let's not forget we lost Marcus Morris, who's getting us close to double figure scoring. So yeah, we got Hield. Melton's still out. We don't know his status, and we traded Marcus Morris. I mean, I don't know. I think Oubre. I truly believe Oubre, if he can get back to his form he was beginning of the season, man, he was nice.
Yeah.
We get him back to form. That gives us a big boost and a big help. I'm hoping we can get him back where he was. We hope we get Melton back. We get all those guys back, man. We can plug that middle and do it by committee with Paul Reed and Mo Bamba at the 5 spot. Maybe we can steal some victories.
Let's step away and pay some bills really quick and reset things. But of course, we are brought to you by Wilmington University, our title sponsor, Wilmu Works. Find your higher education home at Wilmington University, where your academic success is celebrated by a caring community. Explore your opportunities at wilmu.edu. Celebrity cook Steve Martirano brings his Italian-American cooking back home to Philly. Enjoy Martirano's Prime at Rivers Casino and Steve's famous meatballs with Sunday gravy, prime steaks, and more. Make reservations for Martirano's Prime on Open Table. Back here on the Sixers Talk podcast, and let's reset a little bit, guys. And just Buddy Hield is coming to Philly, that we know, and the Sixers gave up Marcus Morris, Furkan Korkmaz, a Toronto second-round pick from 2024 that they acquired, as well as a Portland second-rounder from 2029, Clippers second-rounder from 2029, all that revolving around the James Harden trade, plus $1.5 million in cash. So Josh Harris opened up his wallet and sent that their way. And we know that Jaden Springer is going to the Boston Celtics for a second-round pick. Pat Bev is going to the Milwaukee Bucks for a second-round pick. So that is
campaign.
And campaign, excuse me. That's 5 guys leaving, 2 guys coming back, roster spots to fill. So let's take a second and think about this 35.5 point per game scorer, reigning MVP, sitting up, probably elevating his leg, icing it. He's fresh off of surgery, and he sees all this happening. What do you think Joel Embiid's thinking as all this is taking shape, Marc? You're sitting there. Yeah. The big fella's he's out, hoping to come back, maybe a little bummed out with how the season has gone. Obviously, Nick Nurse and the team have said as much that this historic season has been kind of taken away from him. I was really surprised Jonathan Kuminga didn't get booed more yesterday.
He got booed, but I was surprised it wasn't that much.
Man. She deserved the every touch booing that they gave.
That's the Ben Simmons,
right? He deserved it after jumping on Joel Embiid's leg like that for a loose ball, that really exacerbated whatever injury he had. But what do you think Joel's thinking as he sees all this taking shape? Is he optimistically like, oh, I got to get back. I can't wait to be on the floor with these guys and get back to where I was? I'd imagine he was probably thinking that even before the trades, but does Buddy Hield being here make him feel more incentivized to be, get back and be as healthy as possible when he does return?
I think it gives Joel a sense of, let me sit back and see how does this affect the team? Does it make us better? As a player in Joel's shoes, you always want to make sure the team is doing what's best for you, to make sure the best for the team, to make the team better and competitive. So if Joel looking at that roster, one thing, we have a lot of salary cap space. But what does that mean? That means that affects us in the summer for next year. What do we have now for me to come back? We added another score. We had another legitimate guard in Buddy Hield. I believe he may be thinking like, okay, how could this help this pot of stew come and be a recipe for success? And, as a player, you think about every move, even when you're not involved in it. How does it affect this team? How does it affect the chemistry when I'm in a lineup? And I'm quite sure Joel's sitting back like, there's some good moves, some questionable moves. And my feelings about sending Pat Bev away, because him and Pat Bev has become tight.
Well, if you're friends with Joel, they're going to trade you. So just I'll get that out the way right here, because we can go to a litany of guys that Joel was close to that they
yes, just like Ben Simmons and James Harden, best buds with Joel and everyone.
But what do you think, Amy, if you're Joel and you're seeing all this happen?
I'm with Marc. I think he's just looking back. I mean, he's been in the league long enough and he knows that it's part of a business, but I'm sure he's bummed about certain things. Yeah. Joel was very, very outspoken a couple of years ago about what this team needed. He mentioned guys like PJ Tucker out loud. He learned his lesson. He doesn't mention names anymore. But the toughness is something that he recognizes. The one thing that a lot of people probably maybe they realize, but they don't just think about as often with Joel Embiid because his skill set is just so high, and he's the reigning MVP, and he scores so much, and he's so good defensively. He is such a student of the game. He watches basketball all the time. He watches games. All the great guys do. All the big players, and I mean, really anybody in the NBA. But he really watches it, so he knows the players are out there who can help the Sixers with things like toughness and defense. So he recognized a guy like, I remember, Marc, we talked to him on media day, and Joel's like, yeah, a guy like Pat Bev brings that mentality. He knows what the Sixers need. He's been in the system, and someone pointed out in the comments, like, these guys have been now in the Nick Nurse system, and Pat Bev was a guy that had been in the Nick Nurse system before, so it kind of helped him a little bit, kind of play catch up quicker when everybody else was learning the system. So Joel, I think, probably is looking and be like, all right, well, we needed a shooter, we got a shooter, and I don't want to put thoughts in his head, but I imagine it. Marc said it, I think, pretty well. Like, all right, what else? What else you got? Like, what else are we doing? Because there's 3 roster spots now that are open. And we probably need a little bit more. I think that he's such a student of the game. He knows what the Sixers need. He knows the different roles that these players can fill. And sometimes he has specific players in mind, and he will tell us all about those guys.
Part of the reason I felt like the moves indicated that the Sixers were trying to make, like, that Joel will be coming back this season is that they can't, and I know you agree with me, Marc, they can't be wasting years of his prime.
Yep.
He's 29 years old, 2 knee surgeries, the navicular bone. I mean, he might have had 3 knee surgeries by this point, because I think he had a meniscus in the left and right knee, and then this 3rd meniscus surgery this time. And the navicular bone, the orbital bone. You forget he's wearing the mask for a little bit. And if he comes back and is the same Joel he was, the window, I mean, he's 29, maybe 35, maybe 34. He probably has where he can be at this upper echelon type of level. Are you concerned at all that the Sixers are at a point where they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by not, like, putting it all out there? Like, do you feel like they need to honor Joel's prime by making moves that make this team, be able to compete with the Bucks and the Heat and the Celtics? Do these moves signify that, or are they at a point where Joel Embiid's prime is something that this season specifically that they're not as concerned about?
For me, I look at it like this. I think every day they look at Joel's prime. They know he's playing great basketball, and he's gotten better since last year. But Father Time's undefeated, and can he continue to keep getting better every year? At some point, your body starts to decline, your game starts to decline, your mental starts to decline, and your love and passion, how hard you play, starts to decline. So I'm quite sure they're looking at that, saying, okay, well, right now we have to put it all in now. Now, with that being said, this summer, the amount of money they saving and what they're going to have available may signify that too. But, like, I'm talking about now, right this instance, this season, I think it's important we got to take advantage of that, because not just being successful for now, but being successful for the future. I think the Sixers, one thing they did do good is didn't give up a lot of their assets. There's some first rounders out there, and they kept them in the pocket right here. So, like Amy said, like you both said, that buyout market hopefully is strong enough so we plug in the big guy. It's just smooth selling from there.
I think, like, as it stands right now, the Sixers sit in 5th in the Eastern Conference. Let's just say they end up in that 4-5 game.
Okay.
Joel Embiid comes back. They get past the first round, and then they're in that second round matchup once again, and it's Milwaukee and it's Doc Rivers. And is that a series they can win with Joel off of surgery, coming back, and Hield and Maxey? Do you guys feel like they can beat Boston?
Yes.
I mean, excuse me, Boston or the Celtics?
Amy, what you say?
I say they could beat the Bucks. I thought that the Bucks is a better matchup for
who
them.
also traded Robin Lopez, so there's who had been a nemesis to Joel.
His brother.
Brooke.
Yeah.
Brooke Lopez. I'm sorry. Yes.
Do not conflate the two. They're very
I know, right? One
players. That's all right, though. They're both tall.
One shoots 3-pointers. Right.
Yeah, exactly. They're both tall. One messes with mascots. The other one actually plays defense. No, I mean, I honestly, Yeah, I think that they have a good chance against the Bucks because, and I'm not going to say why a lot of people are going to say it has something to do with Schmuck Schmivers, but I think it's about the matchup for them. I think they match up better with the Bucks. I thought that last year. Unfortunately,
Agreed.
they didn't get to play the Bucks. They had to play the Celtics. That's a terrible matchup. It's a terrible matchup for them. We've known that for years. I don't know how to solve it. I don't know that there's anything that's been done to solve it. Maybe something that's off season, but right now, the East goes through the Celtics. It's been that way. It's going to be that way. There's nothing that looks like the Celtics roster and where you think, well, nope, they're not going to be good for the next couple of years. They're obviously stacked up well. So that's the problem. But no, I honestly do think a good Joel Embiid matches and Tyrese Maxey matches up better against the Bucks. Damian Lillard is an amazing offensive player. Amazing offensive player. Defense is not anything that he's interested in. So the Sixers could take advantage of that particular aspect. Joel and Giannis have had some great battles because they're both obviously very big, very physical presences in that paint area. Joel draws him out. That's not where Giannis is good. He's not as fleet of foot as Joel Embiid. So I think it's a better matchup. So if you're asking me right now, healthy Sixers against the Bucks, I'm taking the Sixers. If you're asking me healthy Sixers against the Celtics, I will reserve judgment for later. I'm saying probably
healthy. Joel Embiid, fresh off of knee surgery, healthy.
Healthy. Well, it's meniscus surgery, so let's just listen.
I do know this though. Tyrese Maxey being more aggressive is not the answer to their problems. Because to me, Nick Nurse said that a couple nights ago, and I kind of blanched at it because he's just gotten to where he is now. He's just worked all these years to be what he's turned into now, and all the fun that he brings to the team and the skill set and the all-star berth and the 3-point contest so how can you expect him to just turn on another level of aggression and whatnot now that Joel's out and just be more just too much you're asking too much to me if you expected Maxey to do that, to carry the team while Joel's out.
And I think Nancy, I really believe that one of the things that make Maxey who he is his efficiency. When now you want him to become a volume type guy. And that's something that concerns me because just because you take more shots doesn't mean your percentage is going to go up. It's a possibility your percentage is going to go down. And I think the thing that makes Maxey so special is the ability to score the ball around the basket, mid-range, and the three at such a high clip. And now you ask, okay, just go out there and be more aggressive. Take more of the load on, like you're saying, Danny. Take more of the load on and go from there, and everything we find. I'm like, slow down. I wouldn't do that. Like you said, Danny, he just got to a certain point. He's been flourishing. And as we're seeing now without Joel Embiid, life is just hard when the reigning MVP is not in the lineup and you're now at the top of the team's board. And now they got the ability to double team you, throw different things just for you because Big Brother's not here to protect you and to open the lane up for you.
Hey, I also feel like Maxey's special with the things you mentioned, Marc, but after the game, he goes right into the press conference and agrees with everything Nick Nurse says, even though it probably, he's like, I need to be more aggressive. I need to try to stop just trying to.
I think it's aggressive within, because Joel Embiid has talked to him about it being aggressive because they want him, they know what he can do. They see it in practice, they see it, but I want him to be aggressive within his own comfort zone, within the parameters of the offense.
Which seemed like Utah.
Yeah.
And he looked comfortable to me.
There we go.
He looked comfortable to me. But that wasn't him playing. He wasn't playing outside of himself, though.
Exactly.
So,
he was aggressive within the system for the moment, what called for it. And recognizing that is really important. That's something that veteran players do. Oh, you need me to step up a little bit because of this, this, and this. Okay, they can do that. That's a tough thing to try to learn instead of just being out there like, you know what? I'm going to chuck up a bunch of shots today. Well, that's not being aggressive in the right way. That's just being regressive stupid. Who cares if I can go out there? I can put up 50 shots too. You know what they're not going to do is get you any points. Not a single, maybe one bucket might go in out of
maybe
the 50.
one.
Maybe.
Curious to get you guys' thoughts on this. Social media is a weird place sometimes, but we have seen the I don't know, proliferation is the word, but Juju Watkins at USC scored 50 plus. We saw Maxey go for 51 and Embiid hit for 70, and they had the piece of paper like Wilt Chamberlain hold it like 51. Like, do you get to hold up a piece of paper for 51?
It ain't up in Wilt stratosphere.
Everybody does it now. They hold it up for everybody.
70, okay, 70, but 51.
I think they did it with LeBron when he passed Kareem, and I thought, all right.
Did they hold up all the
maybe."
points? It was all the points.
Yeah, it was
on
like 336 out, whatever it
there? Right.
was.
Okay.
I was like, all right. And I remember thinking, though, I was kind of like, and listen, I'm a big fan of LeBron. Father Time is still not beating that guy.
Come
the
on,
only
you saw the
person
picture with him and Jalen Brunson when he was like 8 years old,
Right?
and they're still playing against
Wait,
each other.
there's a clip out there where he's playing against these guys, and you're looking at it. It's like Gary Payton with the Sonics. Like, it's just, whoa, what's happening? There's kids out there who have no idea who the Sonics are. But yeah, so
Like, is that an exhibition team versus a high school team? What's the
Sonics? Like, what's happening? I don't like when people hold up. The 100 is so iconic.
Yeah.
It's like the Ali, like I need to see that picture one time, and it's when it happened because it was so, amazing, and what an iconic shot, and it gives you a visceral reaction. And so when you see it again, I cringe. I'm like, oh. And the thing is, I love the players that are doing it. Like I love Tyrese Maxey, 51. That's awesome. Yeah. Don't make him do that. Yeah. Don't do it.
Right.
It's 100. If you get 100, then you absolutely can hold that up.
Exactly.
Social media also is a weird place once again, and people are, it's just different, the generations that come by, and so many people are, these other players are scoring, Devin Booker and Donovan Mitchell hitting for 70 and all that stuff.
And,
right,
73.
Exactly. Luka 73. And people are like, oh, I haven't seen the Wilt Chamberlain footage, so it didn't happen. Like, what? Like, are you really like?
First of all, there's radio. There's radio.
Are you standing? There is some footage out there as well, but okay, yeah, he might have been playing against guys who also were plumbers in the off season, but
100 points.
That doesn't take away, right? 100 points is 100 points.
100 points is 100 points. Listen, yeah, it is crazy though. The scoring numbers this year, Marc and I've talked about it. They're bananas, and I know everybody's saying like, oh, you don't need defense you do in the playoffs. Yeah, you will not see these 150 to 125. They will not be in the playoffs. Right now, everybody's putting up buckets. Steph Curry has changed the game in such an amazing way. Scoring 120 is it doesn't even raise an eyebrow anymore. It's like, of course you scored 120 points, but you're not going to see that in the playoffs. So when everybody's talking about like, oh, you don't need defense, look at the scoring that's happening right now. You can just try to outscore teams like the Bucks are going to do, and like the Hawks have done. The Hawks obviously are in the play-in tournament right now. They can't outscore anybody. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's just what you do. But it'll be interesting to see because defense does play a role in the playoffs. May not now, but it will.
Guys, we have heard from Joel Embiid, and Embiid, thanks to our producer Clayton and Tom waiting in the wings here. Lots of people got better. Triple exclamation point from Embiid. That's fun for competition. ... Ellipses. So he's watching. He's
always watching.
He's always watching.
Hi, Joel.
And yeah, right. Is he watching us? Right, exactly. But yeah, lots of teams did get better. It is fun for competition.
I think the worry is that the teams that got better are in the East.
Are you gleaning anything from him saying that?
The Knicks got better. The Celtics, the Bucks, the Pacers. You're like, uh-oh.
Is that tweet letting you know that Joel is engaged enough that we would see him back on the court? Like, does that help reinforce the idea that we are going to see him?
I don't know if that reinforces it, but it just shows he's watching. It shows he's paying attention.
I feel like
man's always watching. He loves basketball.
But if I knew that I wasn't going to come back, I would be, in my feelings a little bit. I might be disconnected, detached. I wouldn't be paying attention as much if I knew I wasn't coming back. I'll be like, I'm focused on the off season. But you ain't gonna see him on the bench anytime soon as part of the team or at the practice facility. No. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
But listen, I don't. These guys are young and whatnot. And I think you guys might know, my wife broke her ankle, and she had watching the process. That was in November, and watching the process of what she can't even run until May. So these are guys. Of course,
Daniel, I love Michaela, and she is very fit.
I'm gonna say all this. I'm gonna say all this.
Professional athlete.
I know their job is completely. They don't have to go and work a 9 to 5 and then come home and whatnot. Their job is completely to work out. But with that in mind, seeing the process that it takes to get through something like that. So you're talking about 2 knee injuries, the orbital bone, the navicular bone. Like these aren't just slight things that we, as from outsiders.
Ask the man who's had a couple of those.
Yes. I mean, talk about it, Marc. I mean, come on, man. This isn't just like fly by night type of stuff.
The thing that makes basketball players and obviously some football players are who they are. They're gladiators. Their bodies are different for a lot of people. Yes, they have situations, have injuries like we all have, but like we have the best, meaning we, I mean the medical staff in the NBA and the training staff. One thing that we have is we have the ability to always get treatment, always help progress injuries, especially after like surgery. So yes, you keep bouncing back the same after you having surgery. A lot of times you can, not all the times. But with that being said, Sixers have great staff. They have great people. And the one thing, when you're going through something, they come to your house and do the treatment. They bring all their treatment. They come, you bring all your treatment, all the things they need, and they give you treatment. So like you have round the clock hours where you're getting the necessary things to help you heal and recover. I think that helps a lot. And I think people forget that. It's not like, okay, well, I can be here at this time. No. You need what you need. Ultrasound, what you need. Anything, you're going to get it directly when you need it. You need to sit it twice a day. If it's showing that if you do it 4 to 5 times a day, your healing process is a lot greater. You're going to get it 4 or 5 times a day, no matter where it is, in your bedroom, in your basement, wherever. You don't have to necessarily leave your house to get a treatment. So with that being said,
bro, that's great insight.
Yeah, so I think Joel Embiid has the capability of returning sooner than later. I'm hearing other reports of this long. They're going to get him ready as soon as he's able to be ready. It's not going to be no longer than that. This staff is outstanding with that. My guy, KJ, who's a trainer there, as long as the medical staff, they're going to make sure Joel is ready to go. If they're saying 4 weeks of surgery and he's going to be ready in 3.5 weeks. And this is how long they're going to use to get him his rhythm back. And does he feel comfortable? But they're going to maximize all resources for.
Did it bother you at all, Marc, that they waited so long to have the surgery?
No, I think, it's only a week. I think, he got hurt.
A week,
that's true.
A week earlier means he comes back a week earlier.
They was also researching what's best because, I think Joel played through this similar injury a couple of years ago. So I think it's like we could play through it. We can do that, or we can get a surgery now. So I think it's different ways. I think last time he played through it, they had surgery at the end of the year. Now, I don't know if it's the exact same injury, so don't quote me with that, but it's similar. It is the meniscus area. So with that being said, he decided that
you don't know what a meniscus flap is, Marc? You can't give us the
meniscus is a flap.
That wouldn't teach me that.
Meniscus is a flap. Like,
break it down, Amy. Tell us.
Because I had a small tear in my meniscus. Dr. McPhillamy, shout out Dr. McPhillamy, with a former Sixers doctor. It was a very, very, very small tear, very small. And he was like, you'll be fine. Of course, all I did was like walking, around the block. So it didn't really matter for me. Rest. All I cared about is if I could get back on the golf course. And he's like, yeah, that has nothing to do with it. I'm like,
transfusion.
Say less.
I know what a transfusion is. Thank you for having a golf discussion yesterday. So now I'm hoping to land my lips on some transfusion. Pause.
That's right. But, for those golfers out there, they know what a transfusion is. And they also know they've never ordered one anywhere else except for the golf course. And Danny was like, this
sounds delicious.
Like, oh, you don't play golf.
You're mad because it sounds delicious to me?
And the fact that people only order it on the golf course is a strange thing. But yeah, so it's interesting because the flap is, when it gets loose or displaced as it were, it can create this irritation, and that's where the injury happens because there's that tear and the flap is loose and it's displaced. So it feels like a pebble in your shoe and it's annoying. So Marc's point, like you can play through it, but it's obviously not ideal. I imagine it's quite painful. It feels like there's something on your knee, like a little pebble in there. I don't know how else to explain it. Mine was minor, and I am not Joel Embiid in any way, shape, or form in any aspect. So it'll be interesting to see. But if they say it's a 6 to 8 week total recovery, then let's hope that that's a 6 to 8 total recovery. Evaluation coming up in 3.5 weeks at this point, little more than that, and that would put you near the end of the season. And hopefully you're above the play-in tournament because then you make decisions. If you're in the play-in tournament, which could be a 1-game thing,
right?
What do you do? But I think that the moves that they're trying to make right now are to stay above that line, be in the top 6, so the decision doesn't have to be made because then that would be a decision that you would have to make if it came to that.
We are closing in on the top of the hour, so just about 5-6 more minutes here left. A name, Clayton Dyer, one of our producers.
No more transfusion talk for you?
No, we can talk more transfusion because I'm curious. Is it Sprite, ginger ale? Because I've heard
it can be either. It depends on what the club has.
Okay, but grape juice.
Sprite is the general consensus.
Okay,
Sprite,
all right.
but I've had it with ginger ale, grape juice, lime juice. Some people will even have like a club soda, and then of course, if you want to have it with the traditional cocktail, you have it with vodka. So that's just one of the things. It's just it's a
any
golf
here
course
in
thing.
the room right now? Is there any of that in the room right now?
I do not have a transfusion.
I mentioned Clayton Dyer because he told me that Victor Oladipo has been waived by the Grizzlies.
Yes.
Available in the buyout market. Yeah, you're not getting upper echelon players in that normally in that.
Let's not to interrupt you, Danny, but I'm interrupting you. Victor Oladipo turned down a max extension 2 years ago. A max extension. He turned it down.
Like Nerlens Noel did with the Mavs that time. And he thought he would outplay his contract. And
it was a 2-year, $45 million max extension that he turned down. And now he's been waived.
A journeyman now.
That to me is like that. Mark, you know this business better than anybody. That's mind blowing to go from that in 2021.
Look at the pain on Mark's face. Look at the pain on Mark's face. He's like,
it's been credit. And you know what? And when you in the locker room and people look at you, like the first thing guys do, like, man, it's sorry, bro. They pat your belly, because it hurts. Like Schroeder knows that personally, and other guys know that personally.
Also traded today.
Exactly. So it's like kind of guys that do that, and look at him now, like respectfully. And will he ever play? Like he's coming off some major injuries. Like, will he ever play or be half of what he was? I'm wishing him the best because he's a great guy. Actually, a phenomenal voice. Bro, he can sing really well.
You remember when he had the New York and the tuxedo and the dunk contest and all that? But man, that seems like ages ago.
That seems like a long time ago.
Pat Bev says, I'm sorry, excuse me. I want to thank the Sixers fans and my teammates for allowing me to do my thing. Always love Nurse and EB, Elton Brand, I assume. Maury is understand the business. You took a chance on me over a decade ago when no one did. Always love 76ers.
Nice.
So, hey, good vibes with Pat Bev.
I'm telling you, people are mad. They're in their feelings.
Yeah,
Pat Bev in the comments, and I get it.
Pat, I love you. I love you right here on my phone from someone underneath Pat. I love you from some guy whose handle is Maxi VP. So he also has in his header James Harden working at a drive-through, but I don't know.
I like that. I like that.
It's not a real picture. It's like superimposed, but not a lot of time left. We're closing in on the top of the hour, as I mentioned. I want to get to this because it's part of the podcast that we do here on a weekly basis, Amy and Mark. And Super Sunday is coming up. Prop bets are everywhere. And we discuss them and give our thoughts and opinions. We can get silly with this, or we can be more serious. Are you guys feeling serious or silly?
Silly.
Oh, okay. All right. We can go coin toss result, length of the national anthem. So
I was gonna I thought give me some Usher ones. Like, what's he gonna lead with? What's he gonna close with?
Okay,
those are good ones because we were talking about that the other day. Like, does he start with OMG, or does he start with or do you close with those because they're such crowd pleasers?
Well, Mark is a big R&B fan.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would have to dig up some Usher prop bets, but stay with me because I'm a quick.
No, you don't have to. So, I always like the anthem one. I always like the anthem one.
87.5 minutes. And is the over under? Yes.
I'm sorry. 87.5 minutes.
Right. You're going way under on that, right?
You mean seconds?
You mean seconds?
Oh, seconds. Did I say minutes? I'm sorry. I'm trying to type.
Listen, unless there's a different version.
Yeah, like
the peanut gallery not start cracking up laughing over every little thing.
And the thing is, I repeated it, and you still said 87.5 minutes.
Here, I'm looking up Usher's set list. Like, what do you want me to do?
Definitely over. I'm going over
87.5 seconds.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm gonna go over on that.
All right. And what's the dude's name that's singing it, Clayton? Reba McEntire.
Reba McEntire.
Reba?
Yeah. It's over.
She feels that.
Drawing it out. She would definitely be drawing
Reba
out.
can sing too.
All right. This is powered by Fanatics Points Bet. This is us discussing the prop bets for the Super Bowl, and we're going over 87.5 seconds.
Thank you
for Miss Reba McEntire.
If it was 87 minutes, I would have taken
it was minutes. That'd be the easy bet. I bet the
under.
All right. Final thoughts. Are the Sixers going to continue to sink in the standings, or will they be better than the 5 seed once this is all said and done?
I'll go. Right now, we're not going to finish above the 5 seed.
Okay.
We currently without Joel Embiid and with Ross, we're not finishing above the 5 seed.
Amy, a 5 seed or better?
Not better than a 5 seed, but out of the play-in.
Okay, out of the play-in, does that make you content that they can get past the second round if the 5 seed is coming their way?
Ooh, Amy.
It's the Bucks. So I already been on record saying they beat the Bucks. I think they beat the Bucks.
Okay.
I think it would just be poetic justice too. It's the stars are too aligned,
Almost
and
a quarter century since
we're
they've
not
been
allowed
past
to
the
have
second
nice
round.
things, but this is the one nice thing we can have. It would be beating the former coach who failed to also get past the second round.
And Pat Bev.
Poor Tim. No, I don't want to do Pat Bev like
you,
that.
You're missing Pat Bev too. Look, you have some
Listen, Marc, Pat
there.
Bev, and I had a really nice moment at Media Day. We had a very good sit down. Pat Bev will always hold a special place for Marc and I because of our Media Day chit chat.
All right, that is where we will end it. This has been the Sixers Talk Podcast Trade Deadline Special, brought to you by Wilmington University. WilmU works for Marc Jackson, for Clayton Dyer, Tom Feiner, Amy Fadool. I'm Danny Pommells. We'll see you next time.